Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Nuggets News. In tonight's video I just want to cover AntShares, and it's a project that's been gaining a lot of attention recently. It's China's first original and open source blockchain project, and they've recently rebranded to Neo. So if you hear me talk about AntShares or Neo, those terms are sort of interchangeable, and the Ant coins are going to become gas. So in the Ethereum network, we have the Ethereum tokens, and then we use gas to execute smart contracts. And it's similar vein of thought with AntShares and AntCoins, and they're going to become Neo and gas, respectively, for those smart contracts. And that's the same sort of field that AntShares wants to target. So they're trying to become a sort of a smart asset ledger. So they want to do smart contracts and put assets onto a digital ledger, which is really exciting stuff. And as we go through this talk, a lot of this stuff is cutting edge. So don't be too afraid if you can't get your head around all these concepts. And I myself am by no means a coder, but I'm going to do my best to explain them to you. So now, just on the topic of those Neo and gas, okay, recently I've had a lot of questions, and you do, by putting those AntShares or Neo in the official wallet, you will get paid out in Ant coins or gas. So think of that as a dividend or a reward for holding the shares, basically. Now, there are some advantages with Neo, and there's plenty of positives to like about it, and I'll go through those. But one of the main things that we want to focus on is the fact that these contracts are able to be written in multiple programming languages rather than just Solidity for Ethereum. And AntShares have a compiler which basically, no matter what language your coding language you write a smart contract in, that'll basically translate into their native language, which is really exciting stuff, and it opens the door to get more developers. And we know they're hard to come by with so many projects coming out at the moment. Now, just a quick history. AntShares has been around for a couple of years, and again, that's something I like, so that they're not just a white paper as we've seen with a lot of ICOs recently. They've already had a sort of test net and a beta, and they've had their main net around since October last year, which is a really another positive, okay, another tick in the box for when I'm looking at things that I want to invest in. So now the main difference, and before we get into this, a lot of you guys are going to be familiar with Ethereum and how proof of work runs. So transactions are broadcast to miners, and those miners verify transactions and get paid. Now, you might have also heard of proof of stake, and in that instance, you sort of gather your coins together and stake them as verification that you have an interest in the best interest of the network, I guess, and you do get paid for putting a large amounts of that coin at stake, and that's another way to verify transactions. But AntShares are using a different sort of concept again, and that's known as delegated Byzantine fault tolerance. And in this instance, you have nodes, and you have sort of nodes are able to vote, and nodes are able to elect master nodes or professional node operators, and these become known as bookkeepers, and these are the ones that basically verify transactions. And this system has a lot of advantages, but by no means have we've proven this and has it scaled without any failure yet. So this is all, like I said, really cutting edge stuff and really cool concepts, but we do have to wait and see if this is going to be able to scale and really play out. And as there has been a lot of big claims already, claims that they're ahead of Ethereum in terms of sharding and being able to theoretically scale to unlimited size. I've heard claims that it's quantum proof and unable to be hacked, as we have had the fears of once quantum computing becomes mainstream, cryptocurrency may not be secure anymore, but those private keys being able to be broken. And they've also made claims of cross-chain interoperability, so being able to interact with other blockchains. So some big claims there, exciting stuff. And let's just talk about now some sort of projects that are already partnering with Neo and AntShares and some big backers. So now, OnChain is the company that founded Neo, and this is one of the top startups in China. So I think they're a top 50 startup, plenty of money behind them. They're already working on a project which is basically a sort of proof of existence for emails and documents, and they've joined forces here with Alibaba. So think of it in a legal sense. If you can prove that you have sent someone emails and documents and verify all that on the blockchain, and that's I guess only one of the first applications we could see for this sort of technology. So as we get into this article now, I just want to go over some more sort of partnerships and some real positives we've seen in this space already. So Tony Tao, the CEO and founder of Neo, he's working on a Nest fund, and Nest fund is very similar to the DAO that Ethereum had, where you basically get together a lot of money and that becomes like a voting pool, and people can vote on projects that they want to fund, so via smart contracts, and really exciting stuff. And they also want to add this other layer of security. As we know, the hacker found a bug and drained a lot of money from the Ethereum DAO, but they're going to add a sort of global bounty reward system and pay out any hackers that find flaws in the code. So another really interesting concept. Some other things just to touch on quickly here. As I said, locals are going to be keen to adopt this and get it throughout the Chinese economy as quickly as they can, and they do love to support local, and we see that already with things like Alibaba versus Amazon, and Chinese people will look after their own and keep their own interests at heart. Another positive here, calling for university classes and school teachings becoming outdated, and we need to update our sort of technology teaching courses and resources as we move forward, and we're talking about smart contracts, the Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, and all these other innovations. So China's are going to be quicker to move than Western educational systems, I guess. Another really exciting project here, InnoSpace. So these guys are basically a company or an incubator, as you sort of hear about in Silicon Valley, and these guys have got plenty of money, and they can look after, support and nurture those entrepreneurs and coders and whatnot if they need somewhere to live in Shanghai. So just encouraging the smartest minds, as we see Google and big companies around the world recruiting and getting them somewhere to support them and live as they work on these projects. So now Agrella, another project here, concentrating on sort of that freelancing contract, peer-to-peer style of things. CoinDash. So CoinDash, I guess, is aiming to be a social trading platform for crypto assets and matching buyers with sellers, offering portfolio management tools, prediction tools for those investors. And as I'm talking about these things, you're probably thinking a lot of this sounds familiar, and there's no doubt that there's competition in each of these areas with smart contracts, peer-to-peer asset exchanges, cryptocurrency exchanges here. As we move on to the next one, Binance. So the former chief technology officer of OKCoin, a huge exchange in China, he's trying to create a new concept of, think of this as the Chinese version of Coinbase and GDAX. So Binance, his company that he wants to launch, and they're going to list Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Neo, and expect a lot of support from other local Chinese exchanges as Neo's listed. Now, that's probably it for that article there. Again, more exciting stuff I could keep talking about, but this stuff is just, I want you guys to realize that this stuff is bleeding edge, and they have made some big claims, and I'll talk about that a little bit more towards the end of the video. But the next thing I just want to touch on is the inflation rate, and at the moment there's 50 million Ant shares on Neo in circulation, and that's going to increase by 15 million each year, so a fairly large inflation rate over the first couple of years compared to other cryptocurrencies. I know Bitcoin's 4%, Ethereum's spoken about getting that down to a couple of percent in their next upgrade, but this is just something to be aware of, as there are going to be a lot of new coins hitting the market. I believe the next lot is set to hit in August, but I don't think they're going to dump 15 million coins in one day. That they will release those gradually over the year, I imagine. So finally, I just want to talk about some headwinds and things that can go wrong for any cryptocurrency in general, and all these things are being labelled bleeding edge now, as they're even more cutting edge than cutting edge itself. So as I said, Neo have made some big claims, some very ambitious claims. This stuff is exciting. If it pays off, it is going to make huge real world implications, but it is so new, there is a high risk of failure. And we haven't yet had that widespread adoption or testing on a large scale where we can iron out all the bugs. And it's one thing to claim you're gonna do all these new features and execute them without any issues, but as we scale these things, we know we can hit speed bumps, and there is that big mystery surrounding this project with that Chinese factor. You know, if 1 billion people adopt this, if the Chinese government get behind it, if we can get this into Western society and get over that language barrier and that mystery Chinese factor, which is a little bit in play at the moment, it is hard to find, I guess, a roadmap or future updates on what they plan to doing. But as with all these things, just remember, there's only a handful of people in the world that are really competent in this field, and we need guys that are well versed in coding, developing, and programming. And if this scales and all of a sudden they need to recruit another 100 people, there might not be 100 people out there. So I just want to give you guys both sides of the argument, as I think this is a great project. It's got some really exciting technology. If they can pull it all off, it's going to be a home run. But with all these things, there is risk. So I have added this one to my portfolio. It's only a small percentage. There's plenty of good projects out there. Competition is heating up. It's not like it was a year or two ago where there's one type of coin for each thing now. There's stiff competition. There's developers competing, and there's plenty of money flowing out in this space. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I plan on covering IOTA, EOS, and Tezos in the future. Like I said, they've also had some really bleeding edge technology that I'll go over if you guys like me to. I also want to take this time to let you guys know that I do offer live streaming and educational sessions where we do live chats, ask me questions in that VIP members room. There is a link in the description of this video below if you'd like to join that VIP members room as well and follow the prompts. Thanks for tuning in, guys.